for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And good evening. It's Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 306 of the Ron and Brian podcast. Brian, great to see you as always. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing splendid. A lot of people live for the weekend. I live for Sunday at 8 o'clock. The people who are watching this live understand my excitement. A lot of people sit there and go, no, it's all about the weekend. No, it's about 8 o'clock Sunday night. It's about Ron. It's about the Ron and Brian podcast. I get to spend an hour talking to you, joined by people live in the chat. I see you folks. Love you all. Ron, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Beautiful weekend. I assume it was similar weather up by where you are, but just absolutely beautiful, sunny, not too hot. Great time to just sit outside, enjoy an adult beverage, hop in the pool if you have one. Exactly. Beautiful weather to start off Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
So I am ready. Brian, you sent Johanna feet pics this weekend?
No, just pictures of the pool. It happened to have my feet. Unlike the photos I send you, which I like to go high thigh. Right. For the pictures I send you, I like to show as much thigh as possible, knee, shin. Joe just got the bottom, basically ankle down. That's right. That's all she was allowed to see.
Understood. All right. Well, let's get this show going, Brian. As always, it's time for Drink of the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud. Drink of the Week.
Sláinte.
Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week.
Brian, tell us what you're drinking, and then we'll address the comment in the chat saying that you have sent dick pics to people.
Oh, I totally have. only to Soletti. Soletti's the only one I send them to. Victory Brewing. Listen, those kind people sent me, a sampler pack earlier this year. This is the final of the 4 that I have been working on. This here is just straight up Sour Monkey. Hold on, face the customer.
I've had this. You're in for a treat, my friend.
Ooh, Sour Monkey. Listen, fruity notes from imported Belgian yeast swirl through a precise souring. Just like your butthole, pucker up to a bite of citrus-laden tang, ending with a delectable experience, or as I like to call it, sharing a hotel room with Mr. Christopher Soletti. This is coming in at a 9.5 ABV. Beer Advocate says it's an 89, which qualifies for a very good rating. This is Victory Brewing's Sour Monkey.
Have a sip. That's one of my favorite of the monkey line that Victory puts out there.
So good. Yeah. So sour. Just sour. You taste the beer, you taste the fruit. Very sour. This is good. This is good stuff. Ron, what do you have?
Chris says Sour Monkey is what Chris calls your dick pics.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I like to aim for the urinal and show him just the tip forward. So it doesn't actually get shaft. I like to cut it off right at the. Sometimes.
Listen, it's all about a team.
Of course. Got to show him. Got to have him wanting more. Is the way I always thought of it out as. Ron, what are you drinking?
So Brian's not the only one that can bring pretentious London canned beverages to the show. This is the original London Dry Gin. This is G&J Greenall's pre-canned pink grapefruit gin and tonic with real fruit juice, natural flavors, artificial color, artificial sweetener, and tonic water. It is 6% by volume, and it says, hey, enjoy the perfect mix with a refreshing burst of G&J Greenall's and pink grapefruit juice. Enjoying it over ice in a pint glass. Broke out the big rocks for this one. Let's have a sip.
Take a deep sip. Come on. Walk me through it.
It's so
He
good.
likes it so much. He's going right back for a second one without even describing it. Ron, walk me through. What are you experiencing?
Smooth. So one thing I like, and this is one of the reasons I like G&J Greenall, their gin, not heavy on the what's the berry they use in that when they
I
make
believe
gin.
that's an elderflower.
Possibly, but I don't think you're correct. But you don't get the berry taste to it. You get the sweetness. You definitely get the pink grapefruit flavor in it. Just smooth, sweet, with a nice finish, much like yourself, Brian.
Aw.
Did you look up the berry?
Yeah, but I'm not really. What is the? There's a
Is it
gin
a
berry.
juniper? It's a
Oh
juniper
yeah, it's
berry?
juniper. Yeah, you're right. It's
Juniper.
juniper.
So I like my
Yeah.
gin with not a lot of juniper. That's why I like aviation gin. Very similar taste profile here. So enjoyable. But Brian, enough about drinking. Let's get to what our beefs of the week are.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
You know, a lot of times I go for beefs of the week that are on the more lighthearted side, that aren't really going after society as a whole. Usually, they're just some, a slight annoyance that I have experienced and whatnot. But I'm going after society as a whole, societal
Wow.
trends that have been allowed to go on for decades, and it needs to stop. Good point. That's fair. That's fair. Listen, people, if you are listening to the audio, you're missing out on the comments. We say this every week. I would say a good, 84% of the entertainment of this show is the comments. Okay, getting back to my beef of the week.
Yes.
I'll just come right out with it. It is men in relationships who blame their wives for decisions that are made where it's clear that they're using the wife as an excuse because they don't have the backbone to stand up and say, this is my decision and I'm going to live with it. Where it's something, it's here. Let me give you some examples.
Sure, please. I mean, it's always
Say to
better
a guy,
with
hey, do you want to go out for some drinks after work on Friday? And they're like, oh, my wife's not going to like that. When we know, listen, if you in your relationship can't pick up the phone and say, hey, can I, is it all right if I go out for some drinks with a coworker? If you're not in a relationship with someone who's going to sit there and understand, but you don't want to go out for drinks with your coworker. You just want to use your wife as the excuse, or, hey, let's go to a sporting event. Oh, my wife's not going to let me do that. No. It's not a fact of whether your wife's going to let you do something. It's the fact that you don't want to do something. You don't have the guts to say that this is how you feel. So you sit there and you blame your wife for it. Last example I can think of is, you make plans with somebody and, there's a last minute change in those plans. And instead of sitting there saying, hey, this is how I feel, and I felt that, we should change the plans, accordingly, they sit there and go, oh, well, the wife wanted this. It's bullshit. And men need to stop it. Men need to stop pointing at their wives and blaming them for everything. You need to take responsibility for your own actions, your own wants, your own needs and desires. And if you're not strong enough to say to somebody, hey, this is what I think, then you're a pathetic loser in my mind. And guys who want to blame their wife for stuff that they're not willing to take responsibility for, exactly. Come on, have a spine, guys. There you go. That's my beef of the week.
Listen, you have, I think, longtime listeners and viewers of this podcast know one thing. You're an advocate for women. Yes. Holy shit, is Brian actually coming out against misogyny? He is. He's coming out against misogyny. He's coming out against gaslighting. It's the feel-good story of the week. Let's see how long it can last. We're 10 minutes in. We've got about another hour before he can screw this up. See how it goes.
I
Is that
usually
it?
wait till after dark. I usually wait till after dark to screw up. Yeah, that's it. It's guys who just sit there and blame. Oh, my wife wanted this. My wife didn't want to stay in the same hotel as you. Like that's it's stuff like that where it's just grow some balls and just stand up and say I didn't want to spend the same night in the hotel. I wanted to spend I wanted to share the hotel with somebody else. You can go stay 10 minutes away, you fucking loser. Those are whatever.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my beef. Ron,
All right. Yes.
what's bothering you? What's bothering you?
So my beef, and again, not not as earth changing as yours, not as societal as yours, I guess. But yard work, Brian, was my beef this past weekend. As you know, we started a backyard project back in September. The backyard got
Yeah,
demolished.
sure.
Finally, having it come together, we had the sod put down on Thursday, Brian. Nothing better than a fresh lawn of sod to really bring a backyard back to life. But now, now that the backyard's getting to the end, I had to go out and do all the yard work that we haven't been able to do for the last 9 months to clean up the backyard, start to get stuff organized. We'll have the pool open soon. Mrs. Brian, welcome to join the pool. You, Brian, still on the fence. We'll see. Everybody loves my meat. Everybody wants the Bailey burger. It really does tie the backyard together. Thank you, Janelle. But I'm getting too old for this shit. I was doing yard work all day yesterday. I was mowing and edging, repairing retainer walls today. It was just a lot, Brian. I ached this morning. I'm sure I will ache again tomorrow. Some people live in palatial ivory towers, on the Hudson, and they look down their nose out their 6th floor windows at the crew that does their yard work for them. But some of us are out there getting our hands dirty, getting our feet dirty. I was edging, and it was spectacular when we finally got the payoff. But that's my beef, right? I'm getting
Can I
too
just
old
ask?
for this. Yeah.
Is it that you thought to yourself, I can do this myself? Why would I hire someone? Is it that, I don't want to say you're cheap. I don't know your financial situation. Clearly,
Sure.
you're installing a backyard pool. So I imagine, you do have a couple disposable dollars at your, in your wallet that why would you sit there and say, well, understood, but why would you say, hey, I'm going to do all of this back-breaking hard labor in my backyard, as opposed to, hey, I'm hiring a company to do all this pool work for me, to dig up everything. Why don't I also just include in this overall expense a landscaper to come and finish the job once the pool is in?
And we do have a landscaper doing some of the work, but I still feel like I should be involved in doing some of the stuff. And mowing, it's very tough to find someone to mow my lawn because it's not a huge lawn. And it's got a big hill. Like everybody I've tried to hire, they're like, we don't feel like doing it. Literally, I can't give people money to mow my lawn for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, interesting.
Janelle saying, rude that I only invite Brian and Mrs. Brian. So Brian has already paid his license fee for the first season of pool membership. A mere $25,000 a couple gets you a pool license with the option of buying that membership. It does not get you immediate access. So anyone other than Brian believed in the vision and he invested early on.
Isn't it called the PSLs? Isn't that the professional seat license? It has nothing to do with the actual membership, but I purchased the right to be able to rent space at the Elkins Park private community club, I believe is what you're calling it.
I don't know that we've come up with a name. We are selling naming rights for $50,000. You can choose the name of the backyard for a 3-year period. So we'll see if we get any takers on that.
Sure.
Maybe we'll make it an addition to the Patreon. If you do it at the titanium level, you get a pool membership.
See, I think what you should do is you should be reaching out to DraftKings. You should be reaching out to FanDuel, Crypto.com. I think that they're going to be willing to drop the big money for the naming rights to your backyard social club. Or maybe why don't you reach out to one of the local yeshivas and see if they are going to be willing to sponsor it. My understanding is that they are, they're pretty loose with the money, so they will be spent. They're going to be very comfortable dropping some serious cash to be able to, Baruch Toy backyard is what they may call it. I'm not sure.
You think that might be the name?
Yeah, B'nai B'rith backyard. It could
Excellent point by William. Bill Cosby may sponsor it. He's local. He's looking to get back in the public eye.
He, if I remember correctly, he did comment publicly that he would only join if there was a bar installed and that he could make the drinks.
He did want naming rights to the backyard bar. You are correct on that.
Of course.
Brian, before we get too deep into it, let's get to our stories of the week. These are the weeks we pull out. We find them to be our favorite stories of the week. So, Brian, tell me what your story of the week this week is.
Listen, this is very niche. This did not affect a lot of people in this world, but it was something that I just felt was truly a sign of the world we live in and the gaslighting that takes place in society and has been so normalized in terms of dealings with the press. Nicki Minaj, female rapper, I don't know that I can name one song that she does. I know that she was part of Biggie's crew, or am I thinking of someone else? Oh no, that was Lil'
someone else. Is this her tune right here? Sorry. Had to sneak that in though.
So Nicki Minaj is on tour in Europe. She did a concert in Amsterdam, and she was moving on. Hold on to I believe it was London. Excuse me, Manchester, UK. Was the stop on her tour right after Amsterdam. And apparently she partook in some of the local flavors of Amsterdam and decided she wanted to bring some of those flavors with her on the road. Unfortunately, Ms. Minaj is not quite aware that you're not allowed to travel with marijuana and marijuana-like goods. I'm not really sure exactly how to phrase this. So as she's going through the airport, going through the security and customs, whatnot in, see, Mr. Saletti knows that's a big no-no. So she's going through customs, going through security in Amsterdam, and she gets held up by the local police under suspicion that she is in possession of what they're referring to as that she was attempting to export soft drugs. So what does Ms. Minaj do? She immediately takes out her phone and starts videotaping the police officer because, he's doing something wrong. How dare he hold her up? She's Nicki Minaj. So then what she does is she goes on social media, apologizes to her fans, and saying that the police finally got what they wanted, and they were doing everything they could to stop her and prevent her from making her next tour.
And didn't she go on Instagram Live?
That's what it was. She was on Instagram Live while it was happening. But the quote that I'm pulling is from a post that she put. I believe this was Twitter. You know me, I refuse to call it X. But she said, they succeeded at their plan to not let me get on stage tonight. I succeeded in getting to the root of it all by recording them and posting everything in real time. I have so much video evidence. You wouldn't believe it if I told. Okay. There's absolutely zero taking responsibility in the fact that she was trying to bring marijuana outside of Amsterdam and bring it to London. That's against the law. Knowing, like, not being aware of what the the substance laws are in different countries in Europe does not mean that it's some kind of grand conspiracy by the police to hold you back. This is what we call should have been an apology to the public of, hey, I'm very sorry I had to cancel my concert. I was unaware, or hey, I just didn't know it was in my bag. Like, there should have been an apology. Instead, it was this self-righteous, I'm right. I'm the one who's being victimized here. I have it on video. She's the one who was smuggling drugs. Not one point does she say it wasn't mine. Not one point does she say, listen, this cop snuck it in my bag because he's racist. At no point does any of that said. It is literally something as her framing this publicly as the system was doing everything they could to stop me, but I did everything in my power, and I've got them on video. She has them on video stopping her smuggling drugs. Like, it's mind blowing the level of gaslighting that takes place in society.
Good point from Allie here. You're faulting a black woman for filming during an interaction with the police. I mean, that's also a valid point.
I am blaming that black woman for for claiming that by filming, she is somehow justified in the behavior that created the situation that required her to film. You can't gaslight me, Allie. You can't gaslight me. I know that's what you're trying to do right now. I will not fall victim to it this time.
I will say this, and I don't think enough people realize it. Like, they think because like marijuana and other soft drugs are legal in Amsterdam, that their drug laws overall are very lax. It actually is very much the opposite of, as far as carrying marijuana, even within Amsterdam, is regulated. So yeah, to think you can just pick it up, take it on a plane, go to wherever you want, doesn't make sense to me.
Truth be told, had she just said, listen, I was unaware of what the laws were over there. I thought it was legal. Shame on me. I got caught at the airport. As soon as they called it, I apologize. I was just like, I'm apologizing to you, my fans who bought tickets when, the concert was announced, and, you were looking to show up to get a great night of entertainment and you did not receive it. My bad. If you said that, the story never would have even entered my, viewpoint. It was the gaslighting. It was they succeeded in their plan to prevent me from giving a concert. No. Their plan was to just let you go. It was because you were trying to leave with drugs that prevented them from doing it. That's my problem.
All right.
Get Allie with the gaslighting. Now,
Whitey McIvoryTower. I love it. I love that's your new name. Whitey McIvoryTower.
That might be the name of the episode. Whitey McIvoryTower. That could be it. That could be it. Write that down, Matt. Matt, write that down. That is.
Oh, you didn't hear about Matt?
No, what happened to him?
So, we weren't really paying Matt a lot of money for his internship here. So he had taken a part-time. Right. But apparently he had taken a part-time job with Boeing to make ends meet. Saw some things, I guess, he shouldn't have seen, was going to testify, and I haven't been able to get a hold of him for the last 3 or 4 days. So I will write down Whitey McIvoryTower. Should McIvoryTower be hyphenated? We'll discuss.
No, I don't believe so. I do not believe so. I believe that that might be the funniest thing Ellie said, and I mean that as a compliment. That is a fucking genius. That is fucking genius. Whitey McIvoryTower. I love it. Ron, what is your story of the week?
So my story, this story went extremely viral this past week. It was about a man with a suspended license who joined his court Zoom call while driving, astonishing the judge and his legal team. It involved a gentleman by the name of Corey Harris. The trial took place in Ann Arbor, Michigan on May 15th. The assistant public defender introduced herself to the judge and said Mr. Harris should be present. And Mr. Harris joined the call, clearly driving and talking about how he was going to be parking at his doctor's office. We have a little video of what happened on the Zoom right here.
I don't understand something. This is a driver while license suspended. That is correct, Your Honor.
And he was just driving, and he didn't have a license.
Is with the charges, Your Honor. Yes.
No, I'm looking at his
Yes.
record. He doesn't have a license. He's suspended and he's just driving.
The
That is
look
correct,
on
Your Honor.
his face is priceless. The look on this guy. So, like, previous to where this video cuts in, is you actually see this guy. Now, this is a Zoom call or whatnot. You see the vehicle is moving. You see the
Right.
background is moving. Like, there's no denying. And he even says, "I'm pulling up to my doctor's office. Hold on 1 second. Let me just park." And then the car stops. And that's when the judge is like, "Hold on a second. What is the nature of this case?" And they're like, "Well, it's a suspended license that he's, has." He's like, "Wait a second, but he's driving right." That's when it kicks in. The look that this guy goes from with a smile on his face to literally a fuck around and find out, photo right there.
Like I thought he was going to break into Just a Friend, at some point. You can't tell me that's not Biz Marquis. I'm sorry, you can't. So
It could be, very well could be.
But here's the interesting thing, Brian. So the video ends with the judge revoking Mr. Harris's bond and telling him that he needs to turn himself in. But here's the
At
ironic
6 o'clock
twist.
that day. Yeah.
The ironic twist in this that is not getting as much traction is that apparently it's because of a courtroom mistake that his license should not have been suspended at this point. So apparently the suspension of his license was tied to a child support case. And apparently back in January of 2022, a judge ordered that the suspension be lifted, allowing Harris to drive again. But apparently there's a position called friend of the court was supposed to send that into the Secretary of State's office, never did. So for the last 2 years, Mr. Harris has been driving around thinking he had his license returned to him, and it wasn't.
No, hold on a second. Was he thinking? How do you assume? Okay, you receive paperwork that your license has been suspended. You get told, "Oh yeah, we need to fill out this paperwork." Until you get a piece of paper from the court saying that your license has been renewed, how on earth do you just kind of go, "I'm sure it's okay," and you just go for 2 years?
He said, according to him, he said, the court told him that his license was reinstated. But yes, to your point, should you have probably gotten something in writing? But yeah, so now people are saying that everyone that's kind of been tearing this guy down because all the news talk shows and everything else have been tearing this guy apart. Everybody says they should be giving him the benefit of the doubt. Which, what do you think, Brian? You are a preeminent expert on apologies here at the Ron and Brian podcast. So do you feel the general media owes this man an apology?
No, not at all. His license was still suspended. He had been driving for 2 years without confirming with the court that his license had been reinstated. There is a degree, regardless of whether you are depending on a quote unquote friend of the court to file paperwork on your behalf. At the end of the day, there's the personal responsibility of checking with the court to make sure that everything went through. I mean, I myself recently, a couple months back, had some problems with the law here in New Jersey when the Port Authority police department caught me scofflawing on the Hudson Bergen County light rail, riding the train without an activated ticket, $74 fine. Now I paid that fine, and you know what I did afterwards? I logged into the system a couple days later and ensured that it was that what had been the charges against me had been dropped, and that the ticket had been paid and the court case had been resolved. That's what somebody does when they have, when their name goes into the court system. Isn't
Right.
that right, Billy?
Billy said the bottom line, he had no license. Which again, I guess the other part of it is he should have had his license returned. But if you know that you're going to be appearing in court because the court still thinks you have a suspended license, maybe driving in your car is not the best place to take that trial.
It most definitely is not.
So, Brian, we try not to talk about politics on this show, but something happened this past week, and we need to just discuss it real quickly. In that, oh boy, he did it this time, knocking stuff over. Donald Trump is now a convicted felon in the state of New York. I really guess everywhere once you're convicted of a felony. Convicted on all 34 counts. Brian, were you surprised, A, and how quickly the jury came to a decision, and B, that it came back with guilty to all 34?
I was surprised that it came back guilty to all 34. The likelihood of being of a genuine, listen, what I'm about to say, some people may disagree with me on this, but one of the things that the American legal system and the prosecutors, what they do is they tack on so many different charges. You're never just charged with first degree murder. You're also charged with, second degree conspiracy to commit murder and, third degree possession of a weapon with intent to commit bodily harm. They trump up, pardon the pun, but you can commit one act. You pull out a knife, you walk over, you throw it at, somebody, you pierce their back. Next thing you know, you got 18 different charges against you. Why? Because the more charges against you, the easier it is for you to plead guilty to some lesser charges, and then they can walk away. Whereas if it's one charge, it's more likely that this case is going to go to court. So the fact that this guy clearly had his lawyer pay off this woman in an NDA, what did I say? NDNA, like it's like RNA. He had his lawyer pay off this woman so that she would not discuss the sexual affair they had. It happened within the time frame that he was running for president. And, that required him to disclose that as part of the campaign. He didn't do something 34 different times. So the number of charges against him was absolutely inflated. One would have thought that there would have been some type of, well, he's guilty of this, but that they literally just went right down the slate, guilty, 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 which in my opinion sends the message to his supporters that this was never a fair trial, that this is not actually verdicts based on evidence so much as a verdict based on a jury that was never going to be open-minded, a judge that was never going to be fair, a legal system that was never going to give this man the benefit of the doubt. And my issue is that we're coming up to November when there is a general election. This man is the Republican candidate for presidency. He is a former president. In a lot of different polls, he is within the margin of error to be predicted to be our next president. And it's the weakest of the cases against him. And I don't believe that this makes any difference to his supporters. All it does is just provide them with even further evidence in their minds that that the system is out to get him, that the deep state has its claws, in all areas, of public life, blah blah blah. They're never going to sit there and go, well, actually, based on what the law says, he does sound pretty good. There's not going to be that. And that's just,
and to be fair, these charges typically are misdemeanors, not felonies. They were bumped up to be felonies because, they were the argument the DA's office made was that these were done in the commission of
large. Whoa, what was that? Hold on. Stop that. What was that going on back there?
Little dry throat. So normally these would be misdemeanors, bumped up to felonies by saying they were attached to larger crimes. And at the end of the day, it came down to the testimony of Michael Cohen, who clearly has, animosity towards the former president.
Sure.
And it also came down to Howard Packer, the head of National Enquirer.
Pecker.
Howard Pecker. But I will say this, and I think it's important that everyone realize this. In Brian's 1 year as champion, 0 Trump convictions. In 4 months of me being champion, 34 Trump convictions. Promises made, promises kept.
That's bullshit. That is a bullshit way to skew it that way is bullshit.
Fair enough. Now, Brian, I put this next story in the queue because I wanted to get your take on it. Because again, it's one of those stories that you feel one way when it starts out, and then you kind of feel another way. So the title of this story is "Steakhouse Owner Won't Back Down After Refusing 100-pound winnings to Man Who Smashed," keyword smashed, "the 3.2 kilogram food challenge." So this is the Devon-based restaurant Cattleman's Steakhouse. They regularly run food eating competitions with a 100-pound prize on the line if you clear your plate. A gentleman by the name of Andrew sat down to eat a stacked plate containing a 20-ounce rump steak, 12 ounces of gammon, 4 sausages, 3 chicken wings, a chicken breast, and a 6-ounce cheeseburger. You can see all of the food there on that platter in front of him. You can see the timer on the table giving him 1 hour. So Andrew attempted to do this, tried to eat it, and basically what ended up happening, Brian, here is a photo of him at the end of the challenge. Got everything down with the exception of a handful of chips and 3 onion rings. This was after he nearly vomited from the sheer amount of food he consumed. So viewers watching this on Facebook felt that he's done enough and that the restaurant should just pay him. And the steakhouse owner, Gary King, said, "We can't move the goalposts. He didn't finish. He didn't complete the challenge. He is not getting the 100 pounds."
Okay, first off, Janelle's got an amazing point here. What is a gammon? Like, you named a couple things on that list that I don't know if they're food or not. So can we go through that list again? Because I understood the chicken wings. 3 seems like a silly amount.
Well,
a cheeseburger.
So, all right, it starts off with a 20-ounce rump steak, which hopefully you would know what a rump steak is. That was your nickname in college, one of them, obviously. Gammon is the hind leg of pork after it has been cured by dry salting or brining and may or may not be smoked. Strictly speaking, a gammon is the bottom end of a whole side of bacon. Ham is just the back leg cured on its own. So I guess it's similar to it's like the cut where you get the ham and the bacon from.
Okay.
So that was 12 ounces, 4 sausages, 3 chicken wings, a chicken breast, and a 6-ounce cheeseburger.
Yeah, I mean, no offense. I mean, and I know it's not popular. It's not going to be the feel good story of it. But if you if you say, "Oh, listen, you don't have to finish all the chips, you just have to eat the meat," then what are you doing putting the chips on it, saying you have to eat them as part of it?
Right.
If the policy is you have to clean this plate except for chicken wing, the chicken wing bone, like, if you can leave bones. Take care of everything. Okay, great. Then we're on the same page. But you can't just say, "All right, you know what? I ate most of the chips, so therefore, like, I ate everything else." I'm actually okay with this. It doesn't feel good, and it feels like the guy got shafted. But what the fuck? He had an hour and he couldn't eat all the chips.
Like, for every now and then, I will end up on food competition TikTok. And the big thing is who's the one guy? Randy Santal is the one guy that always seems to pop up in my feed. And he says he has to clean, like, he'll even get like like more bread or more pancakes, depending on what the challenge is, just so he can wipe up everything that's on the plate because he knows he needs to finish everything on that tray.
Yeah, remember that time in college when we were at that bar and you were like, I'm up for a food challenge? And the kid came out from behind the kitchen and said, listen, I've got 12 inches of trouser snake that you have to gobble down within this time's gotta stop.
Anyway, moving on. Brian, I know
Yes.
you loved this next story where apparently North Korea was sending balloons of trash and human waste over into South Korea. Brian,
Listen.
walk us through this story.
I love pettiness. I absolutely love any time that there is an entity that you would think to yourself, oh, they should be they should be behaving at a higher level than what this is going on. So apparently South Korea sent some type of, and I could not get confirmation in some of the articles. Let me know if you saw something, but apparently North Korea sent over several hundred balloons south over the demilitarized zone into South Korea. And literally, these balloons were carrying bags of nothing but just trash. There was absolutely nothing strategic in value. There was nothing in terms of surveillance equipment. This was trash. And there were also bags of literally just human feces in the. And apparently, this was retribution for South Korea sending. I thought I read somewhere that it was pamphlets that they had sent north of the border. I don't know how everyone's being able to control the wind this way. That the South Koreans can send something up one way using a balloon, and then the North Koreans in the opposite direction. But I'm not going to question. I'm just going to accept this story because anytime someone's sending a bag of poop, I'm loving it. So North Korea literally was just like, you know what, South Korea, you can go fuck yourselves. We're sending over hundreds of bags of trash and poop, and there's nothing you can do to stop this. Because in some cases,
over 150 of them.
Wonderful. And the photo that you're showing, this one landed perfectly. This one literally just came to like a nice, easy. There's some where like the bag ripped as it was like it was coming down at an angle. The bag ripped and the feces and the garbage are strewn all over the floor. Chef's kiss to Kim Jong-un. Chef's kiss for this level of pettiness. I love it. All in favor. Say aye.
I mean, I just want to know who sat there and thought of this. That was just like, listen, understand they're sending propaganda up our way. We don't like it. How do we get them back for this? And someone was like, clearly over 150 balloons full of shit needs to be sent over to their country.
I believe it was Kim Jong-Saletti that was doing it. I believe that it was, I believe he is, a brigadier general in the army. But Kim Jong-Saletti was sitting there being like, hey, I'm going to shit in a bag and let's send it over to those folks. I'm sure they're going to like it.
All right. Brian, sorry, allergies are killing me these last couple of weeks.
Ron, just drink some water. I know you got some water. Where is your large water bottle? Whoa! What's that? A little puny?
Just a regular glass of water. I know. So we don't usually like sequels here on the Ron and Brian podcast, but we have one potential sequel coming up next year that we are excited about. And this is Ohio billionaire Larry Connor planning to take a $20 million sub to the Titanic site to prove that the industry is safer after the Ocean Gate implosion. As you know, we loved the Ocean Gate implosion. We were big fans of it. Such big fans. And I am so excited. Like when I heard this story, I was like, "Oh my god, this is everything we could have hoped for and more." So he's gonna.
I'm willing to send some money to this guy to help him offset some of the costs as he takes his small submersible down to the what was it? Ocean Gate? Was that the name of the
Ocean Gate?
last
Yes.
one? Listen, The Titanic has claimed so many lives. Back in the 1800s, obviously, the few hundred that it claimed back in the day. Last year, there were 5 multimillionaires who sat there and said, listen, we are going to go down to the visit the Titanic. This little carbon fiber device that's run on a PlayStation controller. That's going to get us, 20,000 feet down into the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
This guy says, you know what? Hold my beer, or in this case, he's going to say, hold my Chardonnay. I'm going to go down and I'm going to show the people that it can be done. Listen, if I were this guy, I would be sitting there updating my will. If I were his wife right now, I would be sitting there saying, please, honey, show the world what a real man you are. If I was his children, I would be sitting there saying, you know what? It's about time I get the naming rights to Ron's backyard summer barbecue camp. Dad, go down there. Show us all what you got.
So we will be following this story intently. Like, I don't know. It's like a $20 million vessel that he has designed called the Triton 4000/2 Abyssal Explorer, which again also apparently can carry out the voyage repeatedly.
So did the last one. The last one was we can do this multiple times.
Right.
Question: Do you know if he gets to stand up in this one, or does he have to sit crisscross applesauce like the Ocean Gate people?
I think it is very similar. It's not a huge submersible, so it's something that they do have to sit down in the entire time they're doing the voyage. It's not like a luxury liner that they can take down to the seas.
Understood. Okay. What else we got?
Another great story, and this would kind of fall into our fuck around and find out category. This is about a family's $15,000 Carnival cruise vacation canceled just 2 days prior to their departure without their knowledge, after they shared their booking number on Facebook. So Tiffany Banks and her family from Kentucky, they have been planning this Carnival cruise vacation for a year. Accidentally shared their booking number online.
Nope, they did not accidentally. Oh, stop right there, Ron.
That's what it says in the article.
Accidentally share it. Somebody took a photo of or a screen capture that included their booking number to basically flaunt on social media, shared it to their quote unquote friends. Who knows who was able to screen capture that and share it forward? The one thing we know for sure, people, is once you put something on the internet, you no longer control who gets to see it. The very fact that people are like, oh, my page is private on Facebook. Nobody can see what I post. You don't know that. You don't know who is sitting there taking a screen capture and sharing it. And this family is a perfect example of it. If you don't want something out there, don't put it on the internet. They did. Ron, walk me through exactly what happens to them.
All right. So this is Tiffany Banks right here. She put out a series of TikTok videos. She said she had no idea their vacation, which they had already paid in full, was ruined until she got an email about off-ship excursion cancellations and called to investigate. A Carnival customer service rep told her that she had canceled her $12,000 reservation for the ship's largest room, the Excel Presidential Suite, through the online system. So she said they had nearly $15,000 tied up for this vacation, including excursions. The room was $12,000, a few grand tied up in excursions, and almost $2,000 for flights. Apparently, Carnival told her the room they had booked was now reserved by another customer and offered the family 2 interior rooms, the cheapest on the ship, instead. But the mom did not feel it was an adequate replacement. Carnival also refused to offer a full refund, as its cancellation policy states that no money will be returned within 15 days of the cruise date. Now, the family, get this, they fly to Miami anyway and try to board the ship, hoping for a last-minute solution, but was unable to get on, and the ship sailed off without them.
Wait a second. So these people realize, they get notified while they're home, by the way, we canceled your cruise. excuse me, by the way, here's a notification that you canceled your cruise.
Right.
Then they pick up the phone and they're like, that wasn't us. And Carnival says to them, fuck it, too late. We already rented out your room. Then they say, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to get on a plane and we're going to go down there. We're just going to somehow, talk our way onto that ship and into the room that right now is being paid for by somebody else.
And what's interesting to me is who is booking, like her room got canceled. Who is booking a $13,000 cruise ship room 2 days before the ship departs?
Who in this economy is sitting there saying, I need to have a saltwater backyard pool? I mean, where is the level of wealth?
There's no salt water in this pool. It's all UV filtered, my friend.
I thought you were doing saltwater.
No, it's too tough to maintain. We went with the UV filtration system.
Oh, I can't wait to bring some bleach tablets to drop in there right before I get in. Just fuck up all your shit. Gonna fuck up all your shit, Ron.
So Carnival told her it believes the IP address of the person who canceled it was in British Columbia, but is unable to get an identity of whoever did this. But what I love about this the most is no money was stolen from them. Like whoever got this booking number and canceled their cruise did not do it with the intent of trying to steal anything from them. They just did it to fuck with these people's vacation.
This actually is the greatest story of the week. This beats my Nicki Minaj fuck around to find out. This beats the guy driving in his car with a suspended license in the middle of a courtroom. The person out there, whoever you are, the level of pettiness to cancel a family's week-long cruise or 2-week-long cruise, even sitting there being like, no, give them the money. I don't want it. I have no interest. I'm not trying to figure out how to keep it myself. Let them get the full refund. I just want these people to have their fucked up vacation. Absolutely. Chaos, anarchy.
Apparently, Carnival did come around afterwards and said, all right, we will give you like a $10,000 credit for a future cruise, but they're like, we're never gonna sail with Carnival again.
All the more reason for them to fly with Norwegian Cruise Lines. Stock symbol NCHL.
That is your favorite. That is a favorite of the Ron and Brian podcast.
Diamond hands, Ron. Diamond hands. Still holding. Holding.
Brian, a quick run into our favorite segment, but the drag queens are the problem. Brian, this may shock you. We actually have a story involving a drag queen this week. A drag performer, Eric Posey. I'm sorry. He actually won a defamation suit against a blogger who accused him of being inappropriate with children. This is a photo of Eric after the court decision was read. He has won more than $1.1 million in damages. This was after a blogger, Summer Bushnell, falsely claimed that he had exposed himself to a crowd that included children at an event 2 years ago. She claimed in videos and comments online that he exposed his genitalia while dancing on stage during a pride event in Idaho, even though he had not. It awarded him $926,000 in compensatory damages and another $250,000 in punitive damages. I guess that also falls under the category of fuck around and find out. Sure. The blogger fucked around, and she is found out.
In this photo, who's the drag queen? Is it the person with their back to us? Is it the person
on the
patterned
right.
shirt, or is the drag queen the one with the white streak of hair in the back? I'm trying to figure out of this group which is the drag queen.
Yeah, the one in the middle, that would be Eric Posey with the patterned shirt.
Okay, just making sure. Hey, good for them. Good for them. Get your money back. Listen, if there's one thing that we absolutely love is right-wing hysteria on the internet that just gets basically smushed right back in their face.
Brian, you have a follow-up from our story we covered last week on serial killer Robert Pickton. Would you like to give us an update as to what's happening in Mr. Pickton's life?
Fucker died. Listen, people, we spoke about it last week. Prison culture, very strong. If you fuck around in the outside world, for some reason, the prison culture has a pecking order and it decides who is not able or who does not qualify to live out their sentence in prison. And according to prison culture, this guy needed to get killed. And he was basically beaten senseless a week ago. We asked the question last week, do we think he was going to survive? Kid didn't even make it a week. The world is a better place. We say bon voyage as he's taking that eternal carnival cruise into the sky.
All right. And also, this was a great story. I got to say, you brought a ton of heat to the story list this week, my friend. This is about a San Diego police officer who has resigned after being, I guess, body cammed in a awkward position with a woman that he had. I don't know if he had detained her for some reason. You know a little bit more about this story than I do.
I don't know the name. If you can look it up, I don't really know. Okay, so the story about this was all over the internet, and actually, it's something that took place last summer, I believe, in August of 23. So this police officer is in San Diego, and he is arresting a woman for auto vehicle theft. I believe the kids call it Grand Theft Auto, but I don't play video games. So he's arresting her, and his body camera and his partner's body camera show the woman saying that she was horny and looking to fuck and seeing if either he or his partner wanted to partake. Next thing you know, he is putting her in the backseat of his cruiser, driving away. At which point, oddly, his body cam video goes out. Listen, 2020, going back 4 years, you and I were a very, in tune to what was going on in the world of police body cameras. We said everybody should be wearing body cameras, not just the police officers. That was one of my hot takes, I believe you would call it. Everybody should be wearing it. So he gets in his car, he drives off. His body camera footage suddenly stops recording. Next thing we know, about an hour later, he starts to call his fellow police officers, asking them to drive over to a certain location. This is all covered on video camera, on their body cam. So they're asking him, why? What is it that you need? He goes, well, it's rather embarrassing. I'd rather not say, but if you could come here, please, I need your help. So one of his police officer friends says, okay, I'll show up. What do? They show up with their body camera on. Apparently, he forgot to say, hey, do yourself a favor, turn that camera off.
Turn that off
because
for me.
What happens when they show up, they see a police cruiser on pulled over onto a side street. They approach it. The female that he had arrested earlier that afternoon is in the back seat next to him. He is now no longer wearing his uniform, is wearing t-shirt and shorts. And let's just say, to make a long story short, semen was found all over his pants. He's not been charged with a crime, though apparently the story broke this week and he immediately resigned his position with the San Diego Police Department. I'm guessing that this is behavior you're not supposed to do as a police officer.
Probably not. No, probably not.
Okay. Just making sure, because otherwise I might become a police officer.
You might join the force. Hey, Brian, real quick question before
I'm not looking to die on the work.
Before it gets too late here.
Yes.
What are you watching?
Yes. Ooh, okay. I watched a truly terrible movie over the weekend. Came out last year on Hulu called Paint, starring Owen Wilson, I think it is, the one who goes, wow. Where he plays a Bob Ross-like guy who lives in like New Hampshire and whatnot. Yeah. And it was a bad theft of the concept of Anchorman, where you have a guy, at the top of his field. He's working at a PBS where he's doing a, once a week where he's painting landscapes. Then suddenly a young woman shows up and she wants to also do a paint show. Suddenly her show becomes more popular. He crashes in terms of popularity, loses his show, throws away all of his paintings, and then suddenly the last third of the story is his redemption story. Not clever, not funny, just not a good use of my time. Watched it on a Saturday morning while drinking coffee and scoring up my bets from the day before. And it was still a waste of time. Also finished watching The Gentleman on Netflix, the first season. By the way, you ruined that show last week for me when we were talking about it. I'm not kidding you. You ruined it because at the time I hadn't seen it through the filter that you applied to it, which is that he was absolutely like a Mandalorian. This guy is like, hey, he discovers that, and I'll just spoiler alert for anybody that absolutely wants to watch this. I can't imagine anybody watching this wants to watch The Gentleman. But this guy, this Earl Duke, whatever it was, his dad dies, and he finds out that the only way that the family was staying in like their wealthy role in society was that there was a massive weed operation in like the basement of their home or whatever. And He goes to the people that were running it saying, I want out. And they're like, okay, well, we'll let you out, but you've got to do this for us. And then each episode is him getting one more step closer. And each step is them being like, okay, well, you have to do this for us. And then he does that. And that person's like, well, I would help you, but you have to do this. And it's just this nonstop bing bong, back and forth. Once you said that last week, bing bong. Oh, geez. Last week, once you said that, I had about another 4 episodes left to watch. And as soon as you said each fucking episode I watched was just like, are you a little bit closer to getting out? And it was just like, well, hello, chap. I'd like to help you, but first you've got to steal a vehicle for us. And it's like, this guy doesn't do Grand Theft Auto. Why is he stealing a vehicle? Second Grand Theft Auto reference this week, I'd like to point out.
Nice.
So once you had said that, that's the way I realized. I was just like, oh my God, this show is just a fucking formula. Also, and here's one that most people would not be thinking about. Going backwards, I started rewatching the very first season of Fargo, which I never got very far into. I watched the last season with the woman from Ted Lasso and John Hamm from Mad Men. Loved it. Thought it was a great season. Went back. I think that was season 6 of Fargo. I've got 5 seasons to look forward to. 2/3 the way done with season 1. Billy Bob Thornton, who's Chet Hanks's brother. Conrad Hanks, I believe
Colin
it is.
Hanks?
Sure, close enough. And a whole bunch of other people. That's what I'm watching. Ron, what are you watching?
Yes. So we watched a new docuseries on Netflix, Dancing for the Devil, the 7M TikTok cult. Interesting. So it's about basically this church in California, the Shekinah Church, and it's Pastor Robert. I forget what his last name is, but it initially talks about these 2 daughters that were big into dance and went out to California, get like social media famous on TikTok. And, so the church starts this production company called 7M, but it's really a way to lure people in and just really, get them involved in a cult, take their money. Like these dancers were basically giving anywhere from 50 to 70% of their income to the church. And so this it's 3 episodes, a little slow at times, interesting story. Unsatisfying ending because you want this guy to like go to jail, and spoiler alert, he has not. But just kind of again, we've talked about. Listen, these folks did not do the work. If people are if someone is saying, all right, you just signed a contract for $100,000, we're going to go ahead and deposit that into your bank account for you. In the meantime, we need you to sign these 50 checks and just leave them blank. Like at some point, it should click into your head that maybe they're not looking out for your best interest.
Sure.
Listen, we understand you just did this photo shoot for Gucci and you were paid $250,000, but we're still only going to give you $100 a week while you work in our businesses 50 hours a week.
Sounds like they didn't do the work.
They did not do the work. Caught
And is the work important, Ron? Is the work important?
Work is so important, Brian. So very important. So I watched the first episode of Eric on Netflix. That's a new limited series starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
Can you walk me through the first episode? Because I watched it and I'm not sure what I'm watching. I'm so confused by it that I didn't even want to reference it earlier. So I appreciate you being man enough to being like, because I accused you earlier about being a man. Now I'm sitting there being like, you're a man because you're actually acknowledging you watch it. I was so confused. So it's this little boy that gets that goes missing, but apparently is it about the father who's just a total mess?
So the father, yes, the father is played by Benedict Cumberbatch. The father is a puppeteer on a children's show. He is a horrible individual, horrible towards his wife, horrible towards his kid. His kid walks to school alone for like the first time because Benedict didn't walk him there. Kid goes missing. And then at the end of the first episode, this puppet that his kid had designed like comes to life in Benedict Cumberbatch's head. And that's all I've watched.
Oh, is that whoa. So that's what it was.
Yes.
That was a thing that the kid created. Okay.
Yes.
All right. It confused me and I was like,
So we'll see. I'll give it a second episode. I don't know if I can stick with it. And then started on Hulu watching The Veil with Elizabeth Moss, Josh Charles, James Purefoy. So it's an international spy thriller. Elizabeth Moss plays a British intelligence officer. She is trying to find out if this woman that she has been sent to go rescue from a refugee camp, if she is an ISIS commander or not. There is a plot being planned against the United States by ISIS. It is good. It's a little over the top at times, but I'm 4 episodes in, only 6 episodes in season 1. So I'll probably finish this one out.
Have you seen the episode yet? I think it's episode 5, and I don't know if this is a spoiler alert, but they introduce some time travel aspect where she goes back to the 1950s in New York City, where she is working for Sterling Cooper, a Madison Avenue advertising company, working for Don Draper. And there's a really weird dynamic between the two of them. You're not sure whether it's pseudo father-daughter or, husband-wife, but, it's just a weird dynamic. She comes up with some great ideas for some of their campaigns. I believe she did a lipstick campaign and whatnot. But I think that's episode 5. A lot of people are saying that episode's going to get some Emmys.
Interesting. I didn't realize she was in Mad Men. I had to actually click through and just confirm that. You know what? I'm also
You never watched Mad Men. You never watched Mad Men. Am I right?
I gotta watch Mad Men. Yeah. I gotta watch Fargo. I gotta watch Brockmire, and then I gotta watch Mad Men.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably do it in that order. I didn't realize she was married to Fred Armisen from 2009 to 2011.
And she lit him up after they got divorced in an interview where she was just like, imagine being married to somebody who literally was so vapid on the surface in terms of not being able to actually be a human being. They were incapable of it. Like, just
I could see that.
I mean, it's just
anyway.
She's also a Scientologist. Not to I have a hard once I hate to say this because I know it sounds closed-minded and I would hate for people to think differently of me. But when I find out that somebody's a Scientologist, kind of hurts for me to see them as to take them seriously afterwards. Yeah, Church of Scientology, don't come after me.
Well, that's what I'm watching. Appreciate all of you watching. This is getting to the end of this episode, but it's not the end of Ron and Brian this evening. We have our Patreon starting in just 21 minutes after dark.
Yes.
We actually are doing our pajama party, which was postponed from the holiday weekend. So tonight, 9:30, 1 hour we'll do of After Dark. We've got a Can You Beat Ron coming up. Don't know what the topic is. Brian has been working diligently on it for the last 2 weeks. But if you are not a Patreon subscriber, as it says on the screen, go to ronandbrianpodcast.com. Click in the upper right-hand corner where it says Become a Patron and join us. If you join tonight at the bronze level or higher, we can get you the link in time to join us on tonight's pajama party.
Damn right.
Brian, another spectacular episode, if we do say so ourselves. Anything before we wrap this up this evening?
I feel good about this one. I don't know about you.
It was a great episode. I'm glad to have been doing this here with you. I'm glad to have had the audience joining us here.
Let's see if you remember. What is the name of this episode?
Oh, it's Whitey McIvoryTower. Without question.
I love it. I love it. I
All
love
right.
it so much.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. We will catch you again next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again next week.